I believe actually that chaos can be used for a benefit. Chaos is actually one of our greatest drivers and greatest motivators. And what I've found with entrepreneurs, executives, CEOs, people who are founders of companies is that they are operating in complete chaos. And some of them are really using the chaos for an advantage to thrive, where some sometimes feel like they're sort of drowning in it and they're just always trying to keep their head above water. But really, if we embrace this chaos that's actually awesome, we can completely use it to our advantage.
So I find that really interesting, this concept that chaos is not just a negative thing, because often we look at it as something that makes us feel uncomfortable and no good can come from it.
Right.
I want to know what led you to this new understanding that chaos, I don't know, is a catalyst.
Yeah, well, I would say one is there's a big difference between chaos and stress. So sometimes people get it confused, and stress is really the result of chaos, that sort of that biological feeling that we feel uncomfortable, some physical feelings, the biological experience of stress. But chaos is actually the moment when something goes not as you expected. So chaos is really what I think is when your reality is different from your expectations. And so that happens all the time. And what really led me to this absolute obsession with chaos is I live in it, and I've lived and worked in it for my entire career. So I spent my career as an international aid worker, and I spent my time bringing medical teams into the field every 2 weeks. So I spent 2 weeks in the field every month, bringing a new team that was multicultural, multi-generational. Every type of chaos that could happen was going to happen because we were going into a new environment with all of the same challenges that people face. Budget restraints, things going wrong when you don't expect it, changes in policy, changes in procedures. Every moment something was going to go wrong. And when you're an international aid worker, you learn how to prepare for chaos because you know it's coming no matter what. And so if you're prepared, you aren't going to avoid it. You can be chaos ready, but you're never going to be chaos proof. So it's sort of something I love helping organizations understand is people spend so much time and energy trying to avoid the chaos that you can't. It's going to come. You're dealing with factors that are outside of your control. So how are you going to operate within it?
So for the entrepreneur, how have you taken your learnings in international aid, where obviously chaos is not just experienced, it's expected and likely planned for, into the entrepreneurial world, where sometimes the approach is different? And maybe I'll just speak for myself, but there seems to be this idealistic positivity and optimism that everything's going to be okay.
Sure.
So how have you taken those learnings into the entrepreneurial
Well,
world?
I would say how I take it into the entrepreneur world is in the world of development, especially in international aid and development, is you learn by failing. And it sounds like a terrible thing, but honestly, every project you do, every experience, it's usually on the other side of failure is where the growth is and where the best project comes from. And so in my experience of leading medical teams, every 2 weeks, a new team that I had to bring together, I started to really evaluate what makes the team so successful. What was it in my qualities as a leader that was causing our ability to accomplish the mission? Because if you stay focused on the mission and what you're there to do, then you're going to be able to accomplish it. But as the leader, it's not only about what you're doing, it's about who are you being. And so what I really love working with entrepreneurs about is not so much about what you're doing, they're already brilliantly creative, brilliantly poised to do the great work, and their heart's in the right place. They care about their people, they care about the mission, but who are they being as a leader, especially in the moment when things don't go as expected?
So who should we be?
So it's a great question, and it really is that so in my framework that I've designed over these years of working in the field, evaluating my teams, evaluating which projects worked, which fell apart, I really designed this framework that really is establishing how do you prepare for chaos? Is your company, is your organization, are you chaos ready? So we evaluate that first and really look at what ways do you prepare yourself for chaos? Because like I said, it's coming no matter what.
Sure.
Number two is you're really going to look at what do you do in the moment of chaos. So there is some really specific things you need to do. And in the framework, it really lays out, boom, you better evaluate what you already have going on. You know, there's just these key characteristics that you do, but then really, who do you be? And so in the moment of that chaos, as a leader and as a team member, who are you being? And it's really asking some key questions. I would say the other huge challenges that I see all the time in companies is when something goes wrong, the biggest mistake people do is focus on the problem. They don't focus on the solution. They are so focused on why the problem happened, whose fault is it, how are we going to avoid it happening in the future. It doesn't mean that those things aren't important. That has to happen, but not in the moment. So when the stuff actually goes down, it's all about what you do in that moment. What do you do and who do you be? Because those things do not matter in that moment.
How do you prepare a leader to I guess identify when they're in that moment and to, instead of acting on whatever their instinct
Sure.
is, to kind of acquire that learned protocol, right?
It's a great question because the truth is it's something you need to practice every day. You practice it when things aren't going extremely wrong. You practice it in the small moments, you know, when someone at Starbucks takes your coffee in line instead, and who are you being? Because again, chaos happens when your reality is different from your expectation. So I invite people to listen to themselves, listen. Listen to how you're participating in your daily activities. When are you being triggered? What is your natural response and action? And how can you consciously make the choice when the stakes are small? Because when they're big, it's harder. So you have to practice it every day. It's a muscle.
What have you seen in organizations that, let's say, experience extended chaos over a period of time and don't resolve it or work through it or just kind of let the organization sit there?
I think when organizations are operating in chaos, it's usually around what I see, mostly when I'm coming in, is around their staff. So it's usually a big challenge between staff and management. There's usually a big confusion or frustration between people not having understanding of each other's worlds. And so a big part of it is when it doesn't get resolved, is the turnover rate becomes huge, and the hiring and all of the challenges of people with their employees and finding good staff, because the turnover, people aren't feeling valued or heard. And the more that the individual feels heard and understood, it now becomes a way to start working together and thriving versus you don't get me, I'm going to go somewhere else. Right on the other side of chaos, if you think of the most chaotic experiences of your life, right on the other side are your greatest accomplishments, your greatest stories, the things you're most proud of, the stories that you love to tell. It's not when things are all going right. It's when we are put to the test to see who we really are and what we're capable of. So I love that chaos can be used for that, to show people, and it's just embracing it in a new way.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
That was great.
Yeah, awesome.